Live on WFLA Now. Feel good and live your best life with Bloom Health Club. Here's Gayle Guyardo.
All right, today we are talking about the millionaire mindset, and who better to talk to than the original shark of the hit series Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington, who's a serial entrepreneur and the actual inventor of the infomercial. Kevin, thank you so much for becoming the newest member of Bloom Health Club.
Great to be here, Gayle. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is great because a lot of people want to know what it takes to have a millionaire mindset. And I knew somebody that really endorsed you very early on in your career was the great Zig Ziglar, who tries to answer the question, as so many do, of why do 2% succeed and 98% don't? And you believe it is the mindset.
I believe it's the mindset for sure. I mean, Zig Ziglar was an awesome motivator. He wrote 45 books and in many, many languages. And he had a philosophy that you could get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And this was really my philosophy early on when I was dealing with inventors and product people. They would come to me with were so excited about this invention that they would have. And they applied for patents and then they'd show me and they would demonstrate it. And I wanted to help them. And so that was my early days of the business back in the early 80s, was really helping every inventor, even if sometimes they weren't even going to be commercially successful, but we would then show them why they should stop spending money because, sometimes you have something that just isn't going to make it. So, we would advise people accordingly. But, it was a really awesome understanding of helping people that gave me the chance to work with a lot of people too.
Yeah, and you were one of the original sharks on the hit show Shark Tank. And you've actually been a shark your entire life. Your business is to find businesses that will succeed. So take us back a little bit travel us back in time. You started in the 80s inventing the very first infomercial.
Yes. So I was fortunate. I'm one of 6 kids, grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and my father was in the restaurant business. So when I was 11 years old, I started working in one of his Irish pubs, and I was doing bar backing and waiting, helping the waitresses. I didn't wait on tables, but I helped the waitresses who waited on tables. I would clean the tables, etc. But my dad said, "This is only a temporary job for you, Kevin. You need to own your own business. You need to start your own business, be an entrepreneur." And so my father pushed me to be an entrepreneur, and I started a business when I was in high school. To make it income, I was just sealing driveways. But in Cincinnati, if you had a crack in your driveway, and it was an asphalt driveway, the water would freeze in the winter and triple the size of the crack. So I would knock on doors and say, "Hey, look, let's get some protection in those cracks, and then we'll beautify the driveway." All of a sudden, we were doing 10 jobs a week while I was in high school. And then when I went to college, I had to do something. My dad said, "Hey, the bar business," I'm the 4th of 6. He said, "The bar business has gotten a little tough, and you're going to have to pay your way through college." So I said, "Well, I can't do it sealing driveways a few months out of the year." So I started a heating and air conditioning company, installing furnaces and air conditioning systems. I was 18 years old. It was my senior year of high school going into freshman year of college. But what did I do? I got a lead source. I went to the courthouse and got every transaction of people that bought new homes. And then we called them. While I was in school, I had people that would call these new homeowners and say, "Hey, congratulations on the purchase of your house. We have a free gift for you. We're going to clean your furnace, and we're going to show you how to work that furnace also." So they're like, "Awesome. When can you be here?" Well, by the time I would get to the office, they'd have 10 or 12 leads for me to follow up, people that wanted a new furnace, a more efficient furnace. They wanted air conditioning. They wanted a humidifier, an air cleaner. They just bought a new house. What do they have? Good credit and money to buy and invest in their home. So that business took off, and I was an entrepreneur back in the day. But one day I was sitting watching my cable television, and I saw a channel on the cable. There was only 30 channels back in the early days. And all of a sudden, this channel went dark. It was Discovery Channel. It was dark for 6 hours. It just had these colored bars. So I called the cable company and I said, there's something wrong with this 30 channels that you're giving me, because I love the 29 that I'm getting, but there's nothing on channel 30. And they said, oh, channel 30 is Discovery Channel. They're a new channel. They don't have a lot of money. They only have a budget for 18 hours a day. So 6 hours is going to be nothing. And I just said that, and I think, did a light bulb just go off in anyone's head, right?
Right.
6 hours of nothing, right? Well, let's fill that 6 hours. And that's what I started to do back in the early 80s. I went to Warner Cable, Warner Amex Cable Television Network in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I started producing shows right in their studio in 1982. And we were doing infomercials for businesses for sale. And then, of course, we started doing products, and the product side just took off like crazy. It was an unbelievable kind of birth of an industry, really, the infomercial industry.
And a lot of that involved you going out to different trade shows, kind of your original roots where you began, you know, you're in home and air conditioning and all these things. What are the products around that? And I want to bring in our producer of Bloom Tampa Bay and digital reporter, Brody Waddell, because Brody's been working on an article about you and is fascinated about your advice to network, right, Brody?
Yeah, I am. Like, it seemed like we talked earlier downstairs, and you say that's such an important aspect, and now you have this worldwide network. How would you say, is it more important to have a good network than it is to have a good idea or a good product?
I believe so, because there's so many people with great ideas, and you know what they'll come tell me? They'll come up, I'll speak on a stage at the houseware show or the hardware show, and I get off, and they'll come up and say, you know, Kevin, I had this idea 10 years ago. And I said, what did you do with it? With the idea? Oh, well, nothing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know you. And so I'm like, don't be proud to say that you had the idea 10 years ago and did nothing. That's failure. Okay?
Right.
So I say, you have an idea, you must act now. And that was the title of my first book, Act Now, How I Turn Ideas into $1 Million Products. So if you act now, then you can have some success, but it's better if you act now and you have a network that you can be part of, right? And so that's ultimately what I put together. Was I was good at understanding a product, and I looked for the magical transformation in that product, but I didn't know how to manufacture, how to engineer it, how to tool it, to do all those other things. So what I had to do was assemble a lineup of great advisors in all areas. We had to be able to make the product. So we contracted out the engineering, the prototyping, and then the manufacturing. And then we produced the shows. So we were pretty good at production because we knew the creative side, but we would still hire producers. But then we needed distribution for the product into Walmart and Target and CVS. I didn't do that either. So I had to find a network of people that could do retail distribution. So having the right network is the difference between success and failure at the end of the day. And I call it the dream team. So we were able to take an idea, tool it, manufacture it, inventory it, produce the show around it, buy the TV time to a media agency, ship the product to a fulfillment center, handle the customer service, and then take the product into retail distribution. We contracted out 90% of that whole process to people that were in our network.
Something else I want to talk about that you do so well is I like your formula of fast to failure, because that way, you know, a lot of people will get an idea and believe in themselves wholeheartedly. And then next thing you know, they're putting down all the money they save for their kids' college education, and they're investing everything into something that you know won't work, but you have a model to either show someone, yeah, this idea is good and it's going to work. And you also have a model to say, hey, pump the brakes. You're throwing good money after bad.
Yes, in the early days, we had a mentality that if we're going to launch something, let's be ready for all areas of distribution. So we had to have the inventory. We had to have the packaging, retail packaging, because once the product would go on television, then very shortly thereafter, if it was successful, it had to go into retail, into Walmart and Target and CVS, et cetera. But if the product's not working, it's not going to go to retail. So why don't spend all the money to do all the things for a product that doesn't need it? So we started creating what we call the MVP, a minimal viable product, so that we could test it at an early stage before we had invested all the money. And it helped in two ways. Number one, instead of putting $500,000 into it and take 6 months, we could put $25,000 and in 60 days find out if it had the chops to go to the next level. But if it didn't, then we were done. We're $25,000 spent, finished, out, go on to the next one, not $500,000. So this was saving us huge money because we learned how to launch things that weren't 100% developed. And in today's market, you've got a lot of entrepreneurs out there that want to see if they can get a pulse on something before they invest all the money. It makes sense.
It makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, so you've got this formula. I want to get into mindset, and I don't know if you know this or not, but that you are actually a case study. You know, my husband works for an insurance company, and they look to you as somebody that is not afraid to fail, who's not afraid to brush it off and keep going up again, because inevitably you get the wins. Yeah. And that's what life is about. And then when I look in the mirror, I am so scared of failing that it's almost paralyzing at times. And I tend to live in a safe box that I can't get out of, because I'm like the millions of Americans who can't break that mindset. How did you do it?
So you mentioned case study that was so crazy. In 1990, I was going through some challenges with my business, and we were growing, but then we had some problems. And then, and make a long story short, the folks at the professor at Babson University, which is one of the most entrepreneurial colleges in the world, came to me and said, Kevin, I want to send a team of students down to your office, and we want to follow you around for a few months, and we want to do a story about your company. And it was called Quantum International. And so it was the rise, the fall, and the rise of Kevin Harrington and Quantum. And so this was an amazing story. But for me, the rise was easy. The fall, I took a hard knock because I didn't know everything to do. We didn't have all the finances that we needed, but I was fortunate to bring some of the right people on at the right time and brought the capital in, and then that gave us the rise again. So the rise, the fall, and the rise. And that was basically because we focused, we put a business plan together, and then one of the big challenges for entrepreneurs today is having enough capital. And so when I was a young entrepreneur, if you went to a bank to try to get capital, they basically said, we'll lend you money if you have money in the bank that you can borrow against, or do you have real estate holdings? You know, they weren't really taking any chances. Today, you've got crowdfunding opportunities that people can raise capital there. You also, Shark Tank it's a great way for people to think about, oh, wait, I can go on a show and maybe raise some capital. There's a lot more on the internet today in terms of ways to get capital and get your network and get your dream team put together. So yes, all of these things together have given me a direction that I took way back, which was surround myself with experts, put a great business plan together, and fail fast, as you said, and fail cheap so that you can get to the market quicker.
And speaking of get to the market, you have hit it with some huge wins, including a drink that I think all of us have reached for, especially when I work the wake up at 1 a.m. shift, Celsius.
I have one of these every day. This is my drink today. 10 years ago, I got a phone call to be a board member of Celsius, and a friend of mine was involved with them, and the stock was trading at 10 cents and it went to 20 cents. And I said, oh, it just doubled to 20 cents, but it was still valued at millions of dollars, right? Not even tens of millions. So it was a startup. And fast forward now, 10 years later, I had a 10-year deal with the company to be on the board. And I just recently left the board, and now the stock went from 10 cents to 20 cents to over $100. It actually topped out at over $200 a share before it has had a split now, a 3-for-1. But the bottom line, this company from millions of dollars in value to over 11 billion. It actually topped over 12 billion. And so this one is one that I'm very, very proud of as a company that as a investor in the early days with the company and a shareholder to this day. I'm still a significant shareholder in Celsius and love the fact that it's been such a success. It's bringing the right dream team together was another thing we did there.
Which I was going to speak to that because I remember a million moons ago in the .com era, early 2000s, the couple that made it big in .com, invested in an energy drink. They came on WFLA News. They were talking about that they were kind of trailblazers in this. I mean, yeah, there was Red Bull, I think. I'm not even sure, but they came to the table many, many moons ago, and it floundered until you say a decade ago, you got on this board, you'd bring the dream team. Sometimes ideas can float around out there,
yes,
and then take flight.
So the problem that Celsius had in the early days, this is not an as seen on TV product.
Right.
You're not going to put an infomercial together for this product because it's very difficult to do that for an energy drink. But we got influencers, and this was the change.
Yeah.
So the social media influencers on TikTok and Instagram, literally thousands of influencers. And so we started at the top with some big ones, and then everybody wanted to be involved. And as thousands of influencers were out there, they were driving sales at Amazon, and all of a sudden, Celsius on Amazon went ahead of Red Bull in sales on Amazon.
Wow.
And I mean, Red Bull is one of the biggest brands in the world. I mean, Monster is a $50 billion business. Red Bull's even bigger. And now Celsius was a couple $1 million starting against them, but influencer marketing was one of the keys that took off for Celsius. And now, they're on their way to becoming the next Monster or Red Bull.
And now you speak to pivoting because so many people in different industries, like let's take the television industry, that was a ship that needed to start turning a long time ago.
Yes.
Into what we're doing right now, into a streaming platform. You started the pivot early in your industry because a lot has changed from the old Ginsu knife days and, buying time on, Discovery,
yes,
to eat up the bars. I mean, today's audience doesn't even know what those bars really are.
Right.
Because there's information coming in all the time.
Exactly.
So how do you tap into that?
Yeah. So when I was in the infomercial business full time, I owned As Seen on TV, Inc., AsSeenOnTV.com, and we had thousands of products on AsSeenOnTV.com. We were selling them in 100 countries in dozens of languages. That was a very complicated business, okay? Think about that. Ship thousands of products into 100+ countries in dozens of languages. Very complicated. And as TV viewership was dropping, I saw our sales dropping. I said 10 years ago, get rid of this business. This is a model that is old news. As Seen on TV it's still around, and there's still some products that are successful in this arena, but in general, viewership has plummeted on television way more than 50%. All the streaming services. Let's put it this way. Do kids come home and watch Nickelodeon, or do they come home and get on the internet? Right?
They get on the internet.
Much more so, right? So this is the change, and I say know when to hold them, know when to fold them. I sold As Seen on TV Inc. and AsSeenOnTV.com 10 years ago so that I could focus on helping startups like Celsius become big and successful, and that was my game plan.
So when you meet with people, because this is a health platform. And for me, psychological mindset, obviously that falls under that umbrella. When you meet with people, do you coach them through this? Like, how do you help people take it to the next level?
So there's two ways we work with folks. One is, like I did with Celsius, I joined as an advisor, board member, investor. So sometimes we'll put money in, but we always put our value and our connections and our network in, et cetera. So we were able to reach out to some celebrities early on, and before we knew it, Khloe Kardashian was helping us out a little bit with some tweets and things. So who would have expected that? But the bottom line is that I said there's a change in the marketplace right now, and you've got to be able to move with that change. And so at the end of the day, as seen on TV in the old days was very, very expensive. We would spend literally $50+ million a year, $1 million a week on media, on television. Today, that's almost zero, because now we're spending that money on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on all the social media networks, and we're not doing 30-minute shows. We're doing shorter commercials that have some kind of a hook and I always get back to this term that I use. What do I look for in products? I look for a product that solves a problem that's not already being solved in the marketplace, and solves it maybe with some kind of a magical transformation, which the visuals of before and after, you know it, Gayle, that sells,
That
right?
sells.
So
It
before
sells.
and after, if it was Tony Little selling weight loss, 180 pounds to 120 pounds. If it was Guthrie Ranker selling proactive skincare, it was an acne product. It was from pizza face to clear skin, right?
Right.
And these transformations worked, and that was the focus of the as seen on TV business, but now it applies in the short form direct marketing of businesses to products and businesses to social media networks also.
Fascinating. Do you have any questions for Kevin Harrington before we wrap up?
When it comes to like a product, does it need to be something you agonize over? It has to be perfect right out the gate, or is it better to just get something going?
Yes, in the old days, our team inside, it's got to be perfect. Like, we don't want to launch this and show this to the world unless we've got all the bases covered. And we found out that wasn't the way to go, because we spent too much money, too much time making it perfect. If I could test something after 60 days in an MVP, minimal viable product, and get a pulse on it, wow, I could then either decide to invest more and really make, because this, if it tests well, oh, this is going to be a home run. Let's go fast and furious to the market. Or if it didn't test well, maybe we tweak it and see if we can make it work. But at a point, it's either give it up or go with the distribution. So if we had to give it up, we're okay to move on, because not everything's going to work. And that's why we wanted to test up front as early as possible in an MVP fashion.
What do you think about these streamlining, like, sort of things on the internet, sort of like with Alibaba, where you can almost get these pre-made products and just get them in bulk and sell them, and so many people are making great businesses out of that? Like, can you speak to that? Like,
I think. Listen, you don't have to own a product to be a marketer. Okay, yeah. I've marketed over 1,000 products. This is one of 1,000, and this is a $11-12 billion success. But the product itself, if you're not successful with your own product, I have never invented anything that's worked. I mean, I've had one invention in my entire life, and that was a complete bomb because I got too close to it. But the 1,000 products that I didn't invent, that somebody else did, I worked with them to make them money and me money in the process. So no, you don't have to be an inventor. You don't have to own your own product. You can make money leveraging other people's products. And there's a huge business in the world of going on Amazon and selling other people's products, because about customer acquisition, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a very powerful business that you can be in today without owning any products at all.
Speaking of business, I understand you're going brick and mortar now. Like, we always see you digitally. We always see you on TV. You had but now you're actually investing in a company that deals with your other side passion, and that's golf.
Yeah, exactly. So we have golf has been a lot of fun for me. Last 2 weeks ago at the PGA Golf Show in Orlando. I've been going to that show since 1990. So I don't know how many years that is, but it's 30 some years. And my very first PGA show, I went and I saw a product that Davis Love had, this club that had a hinge in it, and it flopped if you didn't swing properly. It was called the Medicus Golf Club. And that product, we did the infomercial. went on to do hundreds of millions of dollars and was the first ever golf infomercial, very successful. So I've been going to the PGA Golf Show for years, but just this past show, David Ledbetter and myself and 5 other judges judged a panel called the Golf Pitch Challenge. And we found some really cool products, but this is what we do at the golf show. We do this same thing at CES, Consumer Electronics Show, at the hardware show, at the houseware show. This again gets back to me wanting to be a networker and find lots of new things and be out there. I also speak at these events too, which also brings a lot of product flow back. But the bottom line is, yes, that there are a lot of great products out there. And if you're an inventor, that's fine. But if you're not, we can still show people how to start a business. Just like you said, Brody, they don't have to own it,
Right.
but they can make money selling it.
Fascinating stuff. Kevin Harrington, you are a remarkable man. It's been so exciting to talk to you about how you started your career and where it is today. And congratulations on all your tremendous successes in life.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And for those that are out there, I just say, act now. Don't wait, because I don't want to hear you come up to me and say, I had that idea 10 years ago. Now is the time to do it.
All right. Kevin Harrington, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Until next time.
Thanks for having me.